Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Honorable Members of Parliament, viewers and listeners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity to speak in support of the 2022-2023 National Budget. The 2022-2023 National Budget once again proves that Fiji First government's commitment to its people remain focused. This budget puts Fiji and Fijians on the path of social and economic recovery and seeks to lessen the economic shock caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine that has pushed up the price of goods and services worldwide. The Minister for Economy, the Permanent Secretary and his team must be commended for a responsible, compassionate and forward-looking budget drawn after a countrywide consultation. Mr. Speaker, sir, while everyday Fijians are very appreciative of the initiatives contained in the budget for children, students, women, youth, pensioners and social welfare recipients, businesses, health service providers, teachers, civil servants and so on, the opposition looks more stressed and desperate than ever. Desperate because it becomes harder for them to convince the people of this country with their lies and misinformation, and stressed because they don't have any alternative measures or policies thus far going forward to the election. Since the budget announcement, the opposition and other failed politicians were busy fabricating misinformation and lies so that they can hoodwink the public and lead them away from the real intentions of the budget, which is to genuinely assist the ordinary Fijians to buffer the high cost of living. In fact, they are being very disrespectful to everyday Fijians for whom the government has been a pillar of support, steering Fiji out of the troubled waters caused by 14 cyclones since 2016 and a once-in-a-century deadly pandemic affecting lives and livelihood. The Fiji First government provided relief and support to the most vulnerable Fijians and continue to do so. Relief measures, which the opposition term as freebies or handouts, is insulting Fijians who are facing hardship. And some of these people are your own relatives, your neighbors, your friends that you know of. Whenever the government provides assistance to our people, the opposition panics and calls it freebies and handouts, because posturing is more important to them than actually helping the people they pretend they're speaking for. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, the term freebies or handouts and the insinuation is quite disgusting.
Absolutely.
PAP, NFP, Unity Party and SODELPA and other critics should honestly tell us now if they are going to remove all these things they call freebies, and tell the nation, let the nation know. Are they going to remove free education? It seems like it, because according to them, it's a freebie. Are they going to remove electricity and water subsidies? Are they going to remove first home buyer assistance, which we have heard from Honorable Mere? Are they going to remove sanitary pads assistance given to thousands of girls in our schools? Or are they going to remove social pension scheme and subsidized fare for elderly and disabled persons and so on? Mr. Speaker, sir, since the announcement of the 2022-2023 national budget, and even before that, the opposition had done nothing but try to suck the happiness, joy and hope out of ordinary citizens. They have done the only thing that they are capable of doing: criticize, criticize and criticize, and criticize the Honorable Minister for Economy. But their destructive criticism will not deter this government to create a modern Fiji for all Fijians through various initiatives. It is hard work of this government to give our fellow citizens safety, security, hope, and opportunities, which is the hallmark of this government. Mr. Speaker, sir, the budget provides well thought out measures that puts the economy resolutely on the path of recovery, as well as builds on the foundation that the government had laid since COVID-19 affected us. Mr. Speaker, sir, with government's sustainable policies and the decisive actions, we have persevered despite the gloom and doom picture painted by the opposition and critics, where the learned professor compared Fiji's situation similar to Sri Lanka. Mr. Speaker, sir, comparing Fiji to Sri Lanka is like comparing the price of lamb chops to butter. It just makes no sense. Mr. Speaker, sir, this Sri Lanka example is being used to instill fear in the minds of Fijians that this government will fail the same way as Sri Lanka. He deliberately avoids telling our people what is our foreign reserve, liquidity in the domestic market, and whether Fiji has ever defaulted its loan repayment. Mr. Speaker, sir, no matter how hard they try, it is very difficult to mislead our citizens who have seen the achievements of the Fiji First government under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister. We have supported our people before, throughout the pandemic and post-pandemic, rolling out various initiatives through the 2020-2021 national budget, revised 2021-2022 national budget, and now 2022 and 2023 national budget, which consolidates and strengthens our policies and strategies further through supportive initiatives in all sectors of our economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the last 2.5 years, when Fiji faced major blow caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, we all know how decisively the government acted to address the challenges that befell on our nation. And during that time, and if one goes through the budget book, they'll be able to see Hansard records, etc., the other side of the chamber, were all the time simply asking the government to lock down. That was their strategy. Just lock the country. Whereas our Prime Minister stood firm, and the decision was to vaccinate, vaccinate, and vaccinate. And that's how we succeeded. Despite all this, Fiji has managed to get substantial grants, budget support, and highly concessional loans, which the opposition and critics term it as begging, without showing any empathy to the most vulnerable members of our communities, where these funds were directed either as employment benefits, food distribution, connecting household to water, electricity, and internet, for education, pension, and many more. This just goes to show that they don't care about Fijians in need. Mr. Speaker, sir, Australia also gave one-off $250 to its citizens as cost of living payment. This assistance was not criticized by the opposition because it was for Australians at the time of need. But unfortunately, that maturity is not here. They just lack maturity to really understand that this assistance is really for the people. They fail to realize that Fiji has an excellent relationship with her development partners who stepped in to assist. Mr. Speaker, sir, agencies such as World Bank, ADB, JICA, IMF, and countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Japan have publicly praised Fiji for its transparent and excellent management of finances and the resurgence of the economy, with employment almost back to normal and with tourist numbers rising. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm grateful for the budget allocation to the Ministry of Education, Heritage and Arts, because while many governments are reducing funding for education, our government continues to give it the highest priority. For the next financial year, the ministry has received the highest budget for various scholarships and loans to adjust teacher salary, pay rural allowances, support school infrastructure, and increase transport costs, amongst other things. Overall, the education sector received a budget of $713.4 million, which includes $162.6 million for TEL scholarships, loans, and grants. This signifies the government's commitment to build a knowledge-based society, and investing in education is the way to achieve it. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm sure our teachers are relieved to know that the anomalies in their salaries will be addressed while providing incentives for others to upgrade their qualification. The Ministry is working with the Ministry of Civil Service to implement the processes so that fully qualified teachers' salaries move to Band F, Step 3. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry has planned to make several changes to build resilience in education delivery using this budget. The efforts of the Ministry will be to reach out to our students in the rural, remote, and maritime areas. Mr. Speaker, sir, as education transforms, we cannot afford to increase the gap between students who have better access and those who do not. The Ministry has already started working on developing e-learning resources for students and is creating a model classroom for Year 1 students at the Lanamasi Government School. This will become the model for other schools to follow in future. In addition, the Ministry is utilizing ADB funding to create open education resources for secondary school students in STEM subjects, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Mr. Speaker, sir, our rural, remote, and maritime schools need assistance to improve infrastructure. An allocation of 12 million has been made to build or to improve school infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 60 million inflation mitigation package will see every child from birth to up to 13 from families with combined income of less than 50,000 receive $1 a day over the next 6 months to help families cope with the rising food prices. 30,000 tertiary students will also receive $180 in 2 installments. This is yet another assistance by the Fiji First government for the welfare of our children and the youths, in addition to the existing allowance, free education, transport assistance, free textbooks, and sanitary pad assistance already in place. Now you may question why for 6 months. It is expected that inflationary trends or pressures will stabilize. And of course, after 6 months, this will be reviewed. Mr. Speaker, sir, TSLS has become the funding, investment, and empowerment agency for Fiji's future, enabling our students to accomplish their educational dreams. It is evident through TSLS sponsorship and funding of education from Certificate 3 to PhD level. For the first time, the government is providing 10 PhD and 20 master's research scholarships. In the new financial year, the government has allocated 8,000 awards for TELs and doubled the scholarship from 600 to 1,200 awards. The rebranding of TVET to skills qualification is a positive measure of equal respect and importance to change the mindset slowly towards this study. We are not only reinstating overseas scholarship, but also doubling allocation from 20 to 40. This also includes overseas scholarship for skills qualification. This allocation is our commitment to empowering Fijians through qualifications that are not available locally. Mr. Speaker, sir, the provision of grants to achieve micro-qualifications in construction skill set will help provide much-needed boost to the construction industry workforce. A total of 200 grants of up to $500 per student have been allocated for this purpose. Mr. Speaker, sir, apart from scholarships, students are provided with the opportunity for tertiary education through study loans with very low or zero interest rate. Where else can you get a loan with 50% discount if you pay it back within 2 or 3 years? And where else can you get loans at a zero interest rate? The initiative on sanitary pads for female students continues. It ensures that girls do not miss school simply because they cannot afford sanitary products. In the current financial year, 64,340 girls were assisted. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government will subsidize 10% towards bus fares in the new financial year. This will assist families further. This year, 93,114 students were assisted with bus fare, and over 34,000 students use more than 500 RSL service providers. These are primarily small businesses in the rural, remote, and maritime areas. An additional 16.9 million has been allocated to meet increase in bus fares and increased costs to RSL service providers. Mr. Speaker, education is a sector that has been severely affected globally by the pandemic. Consequently, there have been several discussions globally about transforming education to build resilience to avoid such shocks, causing devastating impact in the future. Mr. Speaker, sir, for this transformation, the Secretary General of the United Nations will hold the Education Summit during the UN General Assembly in September. It will take global commitment, adequate financing, and long-term investment to transform education so that it is resilient and fit for purpose. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm also proud to say that Fiji is co-chairing with Belgium the thematic area on financing education at the Transforming Education Summit in September. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji recently became a member of the Global Partnership in Education, the largest multilateral body that funds education initiatives. We have received over $500,000 US to develop Fiji's 10-year education sector plan. I know we've been talking a lot in this parliament about education commission, setting up education commission to review the education sector, but this 10-year education sector plan will just do that. And we anticipate that this plan will be ready by mid-2023. It will be done through consultation, and this plan is going to be different from the Education Commission report, which had hundreds of recommendations. This will analyze each sector clearly with budget and implementation plan so that it can be monitored properly. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me respond to Honorable Lewere regarding grog consumption. We all know not all teachers drink grog. We also know if teachers drink grog after school, it's not anyone's concern. Obviously, our concern or anyone's concern should be when a teacher does not turn up to school, or if he or she is in the school but disappears in the quarters to take a nap. That is a concern. This topic was discussed at Fiji Principals Association meeting, and it was simply an employer-employee discussion where the principals were told to be vigilant because of the complaints being received from the school management committee members as well as the parents. And it simply means that you are trying to disregard this discipline issue. Are you encouraging indiscipline in schools, which will have an impact on our students? And we are investing over $700 million.
Honorable Minister, don't carry out a conversation with Honorable Lewere.
Let me now turn to the Ministry of Local Government.
Through the Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, let me turn to the Ministry of Local Government. Its budgetary allocation of 20.6 million is an increase by 95%. Mr. Speaker, sir, local government is at the heart of our communities, providing essential and everyday services to our citizens to make our cities and towns a better place to live, visit, and invest. Mr. Speaker, sir, funds have been allocated for capital projects to financially strengthen municipal councils. Tavuni Satellite Project, for Tavuni Satellite Market, $75,000 from Rural Local Authority grant will go towards the site preparation, survey works, and land acquisition. And I take this opportunity to thank the Leader of Opposition for facilitating a suitable site for a market in Nangara. The current Navo market, built in the 1970s along the riverbank, has limited space which caters for vendors from Benga, Rewanga, and Serua Namosi province. 200,000 is allocated to undertake preparatory work to relocate to current Navua police station site. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Navua police station will move to old hospital site. Nakasi market, Mr. Speaker, sir, 750,000 is provided for the new Nakasi market behind RB South Point to relocate roadside vendors. Construction to begin by the end of this year. In other words, the tender was called and the tender assessment, we are at the tender assessment stage. Savu Savu market, the awarding of tender to build a new and modern Savu Savu market based on the Blue Town concept is underway with groundbreaking scheduled for late August. This market will have a coffee shop, an information booth, antique boutique, a handicraft area, food kiosk, and 150-seat conference room. Mr. Speaker, sir, Lebuka market is in the construction phase. A sum of 1.7 million is allocated to complete this project. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Local Government Act review, as mentioned earlier on in the Parliament, considering the review of Town and Country Planning Act and Subdivision Act is now complete, it is time to review the Local Government Act to meet the changing demands of the ratepayers and communities. $50,000 is allocated for the review. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 2020, 2023, 2022 and 2023 national budget has been hailed as a responsible, compassionate and creative budget by all sections of the community except the usual critics who are known to oppose everything that this government does. This government will continue to do what is best for our people, and we will continue providing opportunities for our people to prosper. We will continue to build one nation for all Fijians rather than dividing. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the 2022-2023 national budget as presented. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Minister for her contribution to the debate.